Self-made millionaire tips, Colin Plume, Deirdre Doherty. We're going to get right into celebrities. She's going to drop all the names of everyone she's ever worked with and tell me their dirty...
NDAs.
NDAs. Well, we can kind of paint around and get close. So, Madonna.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm just going to throw out names and you can just say, like...
I might have seen her bedroom.
You might have seen... Madonna.
Does she know I saw her bedroom? I don't know, but I might have seen her bedroom.
By the way, there's probably a lot of people that have seen that bedroom.
Might have been a picture.
Yeah. So we won't get into that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, tell me. I mean, you work with a lot of Hollywood types,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so you get referred. I know, I don't think this is like, you work with some news people, too. Don't you have a news anchor client?
Yeah.
Well, you know, what's it like working with are you working with them directly, or do they set you up with an assistant, or like, is it worth it?
90% of it, 99.999, I've never worked with an assistant. Like, maybe they're on the email chain.
Mm-hmm.
Financially, usually they're the ones that are having their bookkeeper or whatever send the money, or the money manager. That's usually the only difference, is the checks are coming from, you know, someone on the outside who's managing all that. But for the most part, they want to be in it. Like, most people, like,
they want to be
design. They want to be, you know, so you're getting really up close, personal, deep.
Yeah.
You know, it's their space. I mean, I'm doing everything down to like the toilet paper at the end. You know, I'm buying your sheets. I'm buying, you know, things that you're.
That's true. Yeah.
With, you know, all day long.
Do you, you know, obviously, it's great because a lot of times celebrities have a lot of houses and they move a lot and they.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're kind of an ideal client in some ways.
Yeah.
But in other ways, maybe they're not. You know, what's your...
I think the biggest part is, no matter what we're doing, there's, you know, a little bit of anonymity happening, right? Even with when we're purchasing stuff, their name is not going on it. Nobody knows what I'm buying it for. I've had people come into houses, and it's a famous musician, and we were doing his nightstands. We were removing his nightstand, so I had to take all of his personal stuff out of his nightstands, which is always interesting. And then there was a guitar pick there, and somebody was like...
They wanted it.
They wanted it, basically, and I was like, not... They have personal photos up, too, so it's not... They would know who this person is,
sure.
But you have to be really, you know that the people I'm working with have, you know, I've known for a long time they're going to be in their personal space. They're not going to be weird about it, you know?
Yeah.
So, is it worth it? I mean, yes, because they can be super creative, and also it does come with, you know, they're used to different hours, you know, maybe meetings different times, and maybe a little bit more on call. So just knowing that that's what you're getting into, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
What are some of these houses like? Give us some crazy requests, like stuff that you either like. What's some of the craziest things that you've been requested to
There's
put
a lot of pet requests. You know, people love their animals.
Like a house for a pet? Like, have you had anyone do a house? Like
I would love to do a house for a pet.
Like a dog, like a full...
I've given the dog its own sunbed outside, and
Yeah.
it was very expensive. And, you know, making a special place for them, maybe in the kitchen, or, you know,
Yeah.
having all their, like, little wash areas.
Yeah.
But also, I've worked on some pretty fun houses in the Hollywood Hills. I worked on Dracula's old house, Bela Lugosi's, and it used to have... Through research, it used to have a hidden doorway, so we added it back in.
Oh, that's cool.
That was cool, and then
Where did the doorway go?
It went to what would have been probably the maid's quarters, so like a secret room and bathroom in the back, and it had a secret hallway up to it. So that was fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
Another one is, you know, sometimes there's panic rooms installed, or maybe a hidden gun safe. You know, things that people don't know are being added into there. Those are always like the fun challenge of how to do that.
Right. Yeah. How do you hide things?
Yeah.
In a house?
How do you hide things in a house that you don't want people to see or even know that is there?
Yeah.
Or if you are famous, is there somewhere for you to hide?
Right.
Something happens.
Yeah, to get away. Yeah, it makes sense.
Let's talk, speaking of stuff, let's talk vintage. You know, you picked out, I know during the pandemic when we were doing stuff, you picked out a lot of vintage stuff. It was sort of a necessity, but it's a passion of yours.
I love vintage things, and I love going to the vintage stores around town, also flea markets, antique stores. all of that kind of stuff, because I think that's the one way that you get something that no one else has,
Mm-hmm.
and that you can have a unique home. And as a designer, when people show me something, I don't want to I'm not here to copy anybody else. Like, I have my own vision, and that is one way that I can know I'm going to give you something that someone else doesn't have.
Right.
When we're doing something, because I can put my own upholstery on it, I can redo it, I had to show a client, I found these chairs for you, they look ugly, but here's them being sold for $10,000, and I found them for $2,000.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can we buy these? Can we buy these,
This is a
please?
good deal.
Yeah, this is a good deal, you better buy them. So I do stuff like that, but it is also, I don't know, there was a whole article recently in the Wall Street Journal about vintage furniture. It's getting way more expensive now because people are wanting it, because the fast furniture now is, it's not good quality.
Right.
So it's
Mhm.
an interesting thing that people also don't understand how expensive furniture is,
Right.
period. It used to be a deal, vintage furniture, and that's not really happening as much anymore. You know, you really have to look for that.
Well, and also, with the project we were working on, we couldn't get furniture.
Oh, yeah, during the
That was,
pandemic.
yeah, there was a pandemic. I mean, that was
Yeah.
the other thing, is like, if you needed furniture fast, that vintage was the way to go.
Or it
'Cause
would come broken.
Right.
And I made a lot of your furniture in Los Angeles. So that's also, I think, when you work with a designer, we have all these people that we work with, craftsmen that are local, that can get us stuff fast, kind of do whatever you want, custom it for you.
Yeah. I remember, obviously I like a TV, and then a couch, like every guy.
Uh-huh.
And I remember we would go through the couches, and you would go, well, tell me go and look at a magazine, and then
Yeah.
I'll just make it.
Yeah.
And I'll
You like this one?
You like
Yeah.
this one? I can make that, and
Yeah.
I'll make it better, and I'll make it better than that.
Because I'll make it with
You know.
the fill that you want and the size, because you're tall.
Yeah. Certain things fit different people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Making sure you had that tiny desk for
Yeah.
a while.
That's right.
It's like, what is happening
Yeah. The pandemic, how did that affect your business? Was it like a turning point? Was it
here? It was definitely a challenge, because we've never experienced the shipping challenges and just the sheer need of, people wanting to redo their homes because they were sitting at home.
People were so hyper-focused on their home and their yard, and
getting materials was out of control.
Right.
It's interesting. I think it's affected a lot of the industry, period, because now it's still happening, by the way. We're not fully recovered, and you have to be really upfront with somebody, like, we don't have control over this.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And now I think people have been a lot more understanding of that, whereas before people would be like, why isn't this finished on time? And it's like, human hands made this, human error happens, and we only have so much control of stuff. So I feel like the pandemic actually, in a way, had like a good kind of gloss over for that part of the business that was always hard. But construction, booming. To get a contractor to even bid a job.
Yeah.
You
couldn't get them.
You couldn't get them. It's
still tough.
Still tough. Yeah,
Still
and
hard.
the prices are,
Yeah.
out of control. So, but one thing I have noticed, and I think we talked about this before, is people buying homes now, and they have such good interest rate, and they're staying in them. So now there's more additions happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
interesting. That's a new
is-
hot trend.
in Los Angeles, I think that's going to be, hey, I want to stay here. I can make money off this house at the end. I can just put an addition on. We can remodel it a little bit to work better for ourselves, instead of like, because usually people are up leveling, right?
Sure.
So they're choosing to do that instead, which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
We've always remodeled in Los Angeles versus built new a lot, but yeah, I think the additions are also.
People before would just go, well, I'll just buy a house that's more square foot or has.
Yeah.
Now it's like, I got this 3% interest rate.
Yeah.
I'm not going to walk from this.
No. And also the ADUs, the accessory dwelling units, now that they've approved that you can, maximize your property with putting one of these on here, like, it doesn't count towards certain square footage, all sorts of stuff. And that is really a big trend. People are, and they're not using it for necessarily renting out. It's usually going to be people visiting a home office, that kind of stuff. So
Our first house, we built an ADU, and I remember this guy, he came in, and he was interested in buying the house, and he's like, oh, it's so beautiful, the ADU. And he was like, for my, my in-laws, but then it's like, then he said, but maybe it's too nice. They're never going to leave.
Right.
That was literally what he said.
People tell me that.
Yeah,
Don't make
it's
the bed too nice.
Too nice, because you want
them to want
you
to
want
go
them
home.
to go home.
Yeah.
Sorry
People say that about
that
guest
I
rooms
built
all
a
the time, by the way.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, don't make that too
Just
nice.
make a lumpy bed.
Yeah, a little
So-
bit. Don't give them the bed sheets. How much did your ADU cost, though?
ADU, it was probably like 85,000
With plan fees and everything? How
but
many
this
square
was
feet?
years ago. This
Yeah,
was
I mean, it's like 150
it's like
now.
it's like it was like almost 300 square feet.
Yeah,
But
so
it was actually
tiny. Yeah.
but it was tiny. But it was funny. You know, the LA inspectors, they're such, you know, they're so we had an inspector that he literally retired, I think, after our project. He was
Yeah.
working on a bunch of stuff. So he came into our garage. So it was the garage, and then the ADU was built behind it.
Uh-huh.
And he came into our garage, and we had built built-ins in there for storage.
Okay.
But it was way down in our driveway. We would never park a car there.
Yeah.
We had a long drive. We could
Yeah.
fit like 5 cars in our driveway. So we would never go there. He came in, and he's like, you have to be able to park 2 cars in here.
Inside the ADU?
Inside the garage.
Oh, okay, the garage. Yeah.
So he made us pull out all the built-ins, this jerk.
Wow.
So we had to pull out all the built-ins,
Uh-huh.
and then we were just going to put them back after, we
Yeah.
finished the project. So then we finished the project, and he forgets. He doesn't even go into the garage. So we had done all
You
this.
did all that work.
Moved all this. We had to get like one of those storage units out on the
Uh-huh.
front for the 3 months, and like, because he said he would not approve it unless
Yeah.
you could fit the 2 cars. And then he approved the ADU and never walked back in the garage. So we did it. And he was just, and then we found out later that they were like, oh, we're getting some complaints about him. Of course you are.
I had a
This
client
guy's-
literally throw the book, literally actually throw the book at the inspector and tell him
Yeah.
to get off the property. And
Yeah.
you can get them kicked off, and you can get
I know, I
another
found
one.
that out later, yeah.
But worse, I had a client, we were doing their front yard, the whole thing, pouring concrete, which you know how much concrete is. It's so expensive.
So expensive, yeah.
The inspector watched him. By the way, codes in Los Angeles change. Permeable, non-permeable.
Yeah.
We have rain. We don't have rain.
Right.
Whatever. $7,000 for a drum to put under your thing because you have to do water catch. He watched us pour, not me because I wasn't there, but pour all the concrete, and he said, "You can't do that."
No.
I mean, $50,000 worth of concrete.
Oh.
Drove by every day
Yeah.
and watched the guy do it, and then told him.
That's why people are
I mean,
leaving Los
that is
Angeles.
like-
That's why people aren't staying in this.
Yeah.
They're gonna get out of here. That makes me so mad.
I mean, we
that
were
makes-
all. Then we
yeah.
had to go through this whole other plan check for it. It was really nuts.
Oh man.
Yeah.
You're a big traveler.
Yes.
You
I
like
love to
going
travel.
places. Give me some places that you went and just like this is inspiring for me to come back and
And
'Cause-
design.
design. Yeah.
Portugal is beautiful.
I want to go.
By the
yeah.
way, go. The buildings on the outside have all of the tiles, just like so many beautiful panels of tiles on the outside of the buildings. Their style is so amazing. Portugal was like one of the leading empires, and
Mhm.
people forget that. So that beauty is all still there. They're in a huge renaissance right now. I just went there recently. I've been there a couple times, and there is so much construction.
Oh really?
So much construction. Like I should move there and just start working because it's crazy and it's all travel.
Yeah.
So
Because I think they've
hotels.
made it easier for people to move there too.
yeah,
There's like a lot of these countries are passing. They're trying to get people.
but it's like ghettos that were like nobody living in abandoned buildings for like 50 years, and they're bringing it all
beautiful.
back, and they're doing a great job of it.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, but their style is really cool. I also love, Spain is amazing. When you go there, all the intricate details and
Yeah. Love
so.
it. Let's talk about some of the takeaways from some of your biggest. I know you've been at Architectural Digest. Is there just some projects that like when you think of like I just hit it out of the park? Is there any projects that you're just that you go back to and you go,
Designers
I was
and
right
artists
on.
are our own worst critics.
oh really? Oh,
So I will look at every project and be like, I wish maybe I did that
I'd
a
done
little bit
that.
differently. For real. And
Yeah.
I think that's what makes we're constantly wanting to be better, So if you look at a project and you don't see something wrong with it, you're probably not pushing yourself.
so
hard
even when
enough.
you look at those Architectural Digest photos that they've put everything in place and the plants
Yeah.
been watered and the
Yeah. Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
I like it, it's good. But maybe I did it 10 years ago and I wouldn't do that.
now
It
beyond that.
would be all different. But I do think, like, with the client in mind, too, like, the most successful projects are one where we're all clear from the beginning on, like, what the budget is,
Yeah.
what the plan is, what their style is, and that's all been communicated.
Mhm.
And also that they've really trust and are able to kind of let go into what I do and let me. Those are the ones that I look on my website, and I was like, I was really able to push it with
Mhm.
that because we weren't arguing about the color. Not that we're arguing, but like they were trusting that my color palette was a good
Yeah.
one, or we weren't like, so this little knob, people get really into the detail part of it and they have a hard time seeing the full vision.
Right.
So that I think is the most successful ones have been where we're really taking the whole thing into account.
Yeah.
You know, what's it all going to look like at the end? And also we've been communicating well.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah. You're able to kind of spread your wings on
Yeah.
those kind of jobs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been dubbed the Mix Master of Design by Lux Magazine, which, by the way, that's a cool.
Don't you love that?
That's the nickname everybody wants.
I mean, Mix Master Mike here.
What does that mean? Like what modern, contemporary, like what kind of styles? Like, is there anything that comes to mind that you're
That was for a project I worked on in Mount Washington, which I think was a great understanding of who I am as a person. And the client had a lot of existing furniture that's like some Ames stuff, some Knoll stuff, very, mid-century, but they bought a Spanish house. So my challenge in that house was to bring that all into a really traditional Spanish house, which, by the way, we were able to get historical status.
Oh, wow.
So I think and somebody walked through, they're like, did you even remodel this? It looks like it's been here forever. So I think my ability to do that traditional design and really make it feel like it's always been there and updated and honor that, but then also bring in the client's personality and mix things that you wouldn't necessarily know could go together.
Right.
So I love doing that. So I might bring you something that's like a little bit wacky. I think I brought you maybe chairs for your office. You're like, what are these? And I'm like, I love them.
Well,
So
also
great.
like the in the bar, you got this vintage, the woman.
Oh, all the art I brought in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you painted like a blue, blue over her mouth.
Yeah.
And every time somebody walks by and goes, "What artist is that?" I'm like, I don't know who started it, but I know who finished it. It was Deirdre.
I was like, I know what I want to do,
Yeah.
and I know where we're putting that. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a random oil painting from an antique store that I found. That was already had a great frame and everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we do. I love to accessorize with vintage stuff.
Yeah.
That helps.
Talk to me about your new house. Talk to me about your people love to know like how creative people kind of wake up, and tell me your morning.
My morning routine.
Yeah. What do you do? How do you do it in the morning?
My favorite thing to do in the morning to start off with, which I do like at least 4 days a week, is I have a infrared sauna.
Yeah.
So I do like 20 to 40 minutes of that. It wakes me up. My brain feels clear. So I sit in there for a
Music or
while. No music.
just-
I might be on my phone.
Okay.
I might be reading my
So you're
emails.
not really meditating. Okay,
No.
good. All right, just want to know where.
I'm like more of a nighttime meditator than the morning
Okay.
meditator. So I'll take the dog on a walk. That's kind of more of my meditation. I'll go sit in, there's a park
Yeah.
near my house that I'll just kind of hang out in and do nothing. I like that. And then I will have checked my emails, just because in construction there's always hot buttons and I want to make sure I'm not going to get some stressed out person, if I wait too long to write them back. So I'll try to do all of that before I go dive into work, like give myself at least an hour and a half in the morning.
Clear your head.
Clear my head, like have time to myself, because if I
Yeah.
don't, I'm,
Because then it's just fires, right? You're just putting constantly.
I might start getting phone calls sometimes at 6 a.m. when
Oh.
it's like real hardcore construction.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Because that's what those guys are getting.
those
at.
guys are getting,
Yeah.
and it doesn't stop, and you're like, what did I do all day? Did I get
Yeah.
anything done? Maybe not.
I'm gonna tell you my one of the things working on these projects that I thought was so not necessary, and I was like against it, and then I was like, now I think it's like when I go to somebody's house, it's like the number one thing. Can you guess what it is?
No, what is it?
It's wallpaper.
Oh!
I thought wallpaper was. I was like, I didn't
Stupid.
get it. I didn't
Yeah.
get it at all.
But how much did it transform your bedroom?
I don't know. The bedroom for me.
That was more Sharon wanted.
That was more what Sharon wanted, and actually, all the other rooms are what Sharon wanted too. No, but like
The powder room?
the bathroom
Yeah.
is like kind of out there and flowery, and
The back of the bookcases.
the back of the bookcases.
That was an important one.
And actually learning about those wallpaper people, just talking to them, because one of the guys basically told me he's like Leonardo da Vinci or like Monet, like he was basically trying to tell me he was like the artist. I had a whole
I know
conversation.
which one that was.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about?
He didn't come
And
back.
he was so interesting, and he was just like he'd be outside smoking and then whatever else he was doing, and he like set up shop in our living room, and he had this low cut shirt, and it was like I felt like I was like I like because I was working I was the only one with this guy for like a few days, and I felt like I was like in a house with a painter, kind of like for living like the artist life, and he's having super loud conversations on the phone. Anyways.
He didn't come back for the next round.
No, you didn't.
Needless to say.
You didn't bring that guy back. But it was interesting to see, and they were so passionate about
the details. It's hard to do. Like if someone does it
He was
wrong,
a master. What do they call them? Master.
Wallpaper.
Yeah, but they're like they're called like a master. He kept calling himself.
I've never heard of this.
I gotta get this guy back on. He was just so interesting.
You never told me this story before.
I never did.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it was fun. So I think wallpapering is like a fun thing that it's like a small thing, but it does.
It can make a huge impact.
It does make a difference.
Otherwise, you just have like boring painted walls.
Yeah.
You know, so
Correct.
I think you gotta risk it.
Yeah, you gotta take some risk. Who's your dream what do you have a dream project out there that you want to do that you like? Is there like a style of house that you've wanted to do?
I want to do a house. Well, there's maybe two. Can I do a house in Malibu that's like ground up that takes like 6 years, but I get to pick every material and all
on the beach or like set back?
I
set
mean,
back,
on the
right?
hills, you know, but where I get to actually.
So it's like a $20 million budget?
Maybe.
Okay.
You know, but I'm getting
just
to
blank
pick.
check.
These are the beams we want in here. And I get to pick all the tiles and the finish, which I have gotten to do.
And you may live in the house for a while just to really
experience. Maybe they need somebody to house it.
Yeah.
Just to make sure I buy the right furniture.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So Malibu ground up.
Also a Cape Cod.
Cape Cod.
Just a cute. I did get to work on a small one. But
I thought you did a Cape Cod.
I did out of town, yeah.
Yeah.
But I want to go.
Let's end here. What advice do you have for people that are looking to get into what you're doing, or maybe they're like you, they're working for somebody? Like, what's your advice? How can they get out there and really succeed? Like, what would you tell them?
I think you need to be willing to put yourself out there. You know, people in the showrooms will also refer you to people if you are starting out and you don't know. Like maybe a tile store needs somebody to help them, a person to refer projects to. Maybe a plumbing store. That's one way. You need to get your portfolio, because if people don't know, even if it's your own little house and you're doing vignettes, you know, I think people, they struggle because when you work for somebody else, you can't really show the work, you know, as your own, or make a deal with the person you're working with, like, hey, can I, you know, if I credit you as well.
A designer, I know she did a project, not a big one, but she did like a room or two for free, I think, so that she'd have
something to
show, or it was like, you know, pretty, you know, below, just so she had something.
Yeah, I think also for confidence level, people are like, well, how do I get a job if I don't have anything to show?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think that's one, and then also just doing a good job and listening to who you're working with, because that one project could be 20 referrals down the road, you know? So always making sure you're bringing your best game forward.
Yeah.
And if a project is not right, don't take it.
Don't take
that
it.
Is
that's the
biggest.
hardest part, right?
It
Because
is
you need money. And so sometimes I know in business I say this
so hard.
to my my team a lot of times, like, bad business, it costs a lot of time and a lot of money.
So much money.
And you got to get away. And you know, we pass deals with my businesses, and I'm great with it.
Yeah.
Because it always ends up being you end up having a problem, and it's never good.
I worked on something where it was so detailed and such a huge project that I ended up, and I should have left at a certain portion of the project, because it just was never, it was like the never ending project, not for anything I was doing, I was done with my part, but that was helping manage and project manage, and just was not, it was like never ending, and I ended up funneling myself from having 18 projects down to this one project.
Oh no.
With like, and it lasted a while, a couple of years, and it ended up, I had my referral stream was like, where did they go, you know? And I should have just, that's one thing also, is like, leave when it's time to leave.
Yeah.
And listen to that internal part of yourself, because you can't make it. It's so much to climb back up the hill. And also, if you're meeting with somebody and your internal thing says this is not right, you know, like really strong. Design relationships can last years on a project. So if it's already bad in the beginning, I did, you know, my interview process now in the beginning is huge. Because we have to get along, you know, and if I feel like this is not going to be a good fit, you know, I sometimes refer them to somebody else, you know,
Yeah.
that style wise or, you know, personality wise, I think will get along.
And I think the other thing too we talked about too is like you told me with pay, like sometimes people don't pay right, like you got to set those expectations.
Yeah,
early,
of how
you
it's
know,
going to go.
you
I
know.
start with the, and some people, you know, it's funny because in a one way people think people are offended if you ask them what their budget is because it's like you're asking how much money do they have.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more like what are you thinking you're going to spend? You know, like
Right.
what do you have allocated? It
Sure.
has nothing to do with that. It's more like are we on the same page?
Sure.
People don't know what a kitchen costs. People don't know what a bathroom costs.
Yeah.
A small people think they do a bathroom at $10,000.
Yeah.
Sure, maybe if you're not moving plumbing or like I don't know, like
Sure.
that, how tiny is it? But I do bathrooms that are like $150,000.
Yeah. Whatever number you think it is,
So-
add one more zero. That's usually how it goes. That's usually how it goes.
Yeah. So I think all those expectations up front,
Yeah.
you know, which is hard when you're first starting out
Yeah. Absolutely.
because you're just like looking at I could do a good job on this, you know.
Yeah.
So
It's fun. Deirdre Doherty, great designer, knows a lot, knows too much probably, knows a lot about everything. Anyone looking to get any advice or just looking to, you know, has a room and wants to do something exciting, fun, highly recommend Deirdre. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on the
Thank
show.
you.
Appreciate it.
when's
Yeah.
your next house?
No more. We're done. Bye.
Bye.
Drop the mic.